Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Qt QML tutorial. In the previous one, you learned the basics of QML. You'll probably remember how we use anchors to position some item relatively to its parent. Today, you will learn how to use not only anchors, but also the other ways of positioning items in QML. My name is Lukas Kosinski. I am the CEO at Safe Studio, Qt QML consulting company. We help our customers achieve their objectives by providing them with skilled Qt developers. Let's think what Cartesian coordinates, double-sided tape, and X fridge container have in common. Well, nothing. But all in all, you could say that those items could be used to position store the other things. And why do I give you such a strange example? Well, that's because all of those things, all of them, could be compared to a particular way of positioning items in QML. It could be done either by using X and Y properties, anchors, by using positioners or layouts. And today, in this episode, I will show you all of those methods. Briefly, but still. Stay with me. The first way to position items in QML is to explicitly set their X and Y properties. Imagine that each item is a coordinate system. Every item in the window has a specific X and Y, even if we have not set it manually. The difference from the coordinate system, however, is that Y goes down instead of up. Another important aspect of the coordinate system is that they are relative to the parent. This means that the entire coordinate system has its origin, 0.00, in the upper left corner of the item, which is the parent. So for example, if we want our item to be 50 pixels to the right relative to the parent, it's enough to give it x equal 50. If we want it to be displayed slightly to the left of the parent, we give it negative x. If we need global coordinates for an item, we can use the map to global function from item QML type. And yeah, when do we use X and Y properties to position QML items? We use them when we want to place an item at a specific point on the screen precisely. This approach is best suited when you cannot use another positioning method or when the desired position depends on complex logic, when you want to code something untypical. Now, let's imagine a situation in which we want the item to be exactly in the center of the parent. We could use the X and Y positioning system for this, but we would have to constantly recalculate everything, and that would be problematic and also expensive. Instead, we can use a sticky tape that will always stick to the center of the parent. Of course, we are not talking about a real sticky tape, but anchors. Anchors are a powerful feature of QML that can simplify your code a lot. And all items in QML are in fact rectangles in dimension, even though visually they may seem not to be. Each item is divided into a grid of different dimensions. You can anchor an item by its top, bottom, left, or right edge. You can also anchor it by vertical center, horizontal center, or just a center of item. You can anchor a dimension to the dimension of another item so that it will be always connected to it. You can also fill the entire item using anchors.fill. However, there is one condition to use anchors. The item that you are anchoring to must be either a parent or sibling in the items hierarchy. Otherwise, the code will not work. You can also set a margin in each anchor dimension, setting a fixed distance from the other item. And when to use anchors then? Use anchors whenever you want to position an item relative to another, or to the parent container. This approach is best suited for complex layouts with many items that need to be positioned relative to each other. What we want to arrange multiple items equally, like in a single line. You could of course use anchors and position all the items next to each other, but this is impractical. Then it's advised to use an egg container, which will evenly and accurately place our items in a line. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm referring to positioner items in QML, and we can include row, which positions items horizontally, column, which positions them vertically, flow, and grid, which act a bit like a combination of row and column. These items allows us to specify the spacing between items, and the items in containers are placed in the specified direction, one by one, in the exact order in which they were defined. The width and height of the entire positioning items adjust to the total size of the children's rectangle, including also the spacing and margins between them. It is worth noting that anchors of items inside positioner cannot be set in the same dimension as the positioner is placing them. The whole positioner will then just stop working. It means that you cannot set any of horizontal anchors inside a row or any of vertical anchors inside a column. When to use positioner items? Use them when you want to arrange items in a specific order or pattern. These containers make it easy to create layouts with evenly spaced items or items arranged in rows or columns. Now imagine that you are hosting a fancy dinner party and you want to set the table so that all the party stuff, all the food is perfectly aligned and evenly spaced. You could use a tablecloth with a grid pattern to help you position everything well. But what if you wanted to adjust something, some item, some food quickly without having to redo the entire table setup? Like that. This is where QML layouts come in handy. Layouts are a bit like intelligent tablecloth of the QML world, and they help you position and align your UI elements in ease. Layouts automatically resize and adjust the position of the children based on their preferred width and height. What's the difference between positioners and layouts? Positioners are very simple and they allow you to create views with strict rules. So you cannot make grid with 3 columns and 3 rows but make second row fully spent. Layouts, on the other hand, provide additional properties for fine-grained control over alignment, margins, and spacing, making it easier to create visually appealing and consistent UI. And also, layouts are best suited for responsive designs that need to work well on a wide variety of screen sizes and resolutions. Okay, let's start some coding. We'll create an application that will imitate a house wall. Yes, plain yellowish wall and the wall that we want to decorate in some way. On this wall we will have paintings, pictures, which in our case it will be just plain rectangles We'll position each of them in a different way using all mentioned positioning approaches. We'll create one big grid layer with 2 columns and 2 rows. Grid layer will use its anchors to fill the window. Next, we will place container item in the top left of the grid. Then inside, we will position our picture using X and Y properties. In the top right, we will create another container which inside will place picture using anchors. And in the bottom left, we will use flow type to place 5 exact images. And finally, in the bottom right corner, we will nest another grid layout to hang 3 more pictures. To create many same pictures, we will use a fancy item named repeater. Repeater, as its name suggests, is used to create multiple instances of the same looking element. Okay, coding. I have prepared a simple QML application with window initialization. You can find link to the GitHub project for this tutorial in description. Let's give it a color like the yellow, so it actually looks like a wall. And next we need to import Qt Quick layouts module to be able to actually access layout types. Layouts. Then we can create our main top grid layout. Let's not add ID here as it won't be referenced anywhere in the code. We make it fill the window with anchors fill, so all the other positioners children will place nicely. We give it rows 2 and columns also 2. And we should define some spacing between rows and columns. Let's make them equal of 10 pixels, column spacing the same. And now let's start adding child items. We will wrap all images or pictures in empty items. They will hold pictures or positioners inside of them, which then will be placed using appropriate properties. Why don't we just place them directly inside the grid? Well, it's not good practice to define position and size of a child which is placed inside of item which handles geometry like layout. Even Qt documentation left a few words about that. Yeah, so the first picture will be placed using X and Y properties. We need to define our container's shape first, so let's use attach properties, layout the fill height and fill width from layouts. Those attached properties in QML are special kind of properties which exist only under specific circumstances. In our case, we can use attached layout properties because our item is a direct child of grid layout. Fill width and fill height will tell grid layout to fill whole available space in a cell. Now let's define our picture. Rectangle of width, height equal to 50, height 50, and let's make it orange. Now we want to position it relatively to item container, so let's give it X 50 and Y also 50. Yeah, and next cell will also be an item, and it will contain image picture which is anchored to the cell. We do it like previously with attached properties, so let's just copy it. Now we define the rectangle. Let's make it stick to the let's make it top left point, start exactly where the container has the center. We'll use anchor stop edge to parent's vertical center and its left edge to parent's horizontal center. Yeah, and Here, notice that you can group properties in QML using group properties and brackets like this. Now let's move them. And yeah, be aware not to use colon here after the property name because it's not a slot, nor a function, nor a property, just a group. Yeah, let's get rid of this and let's give it a size height. Yeah, and let's give it a color, dark red. In the next cell, we'll use flow as announced to showcase a positioner item. We'll also copy attached properties here just to make this cell equal to the others. The flow item positions items in horizontal sequence, just like a row. But the difference is that when any item overflows the width of the flow, then the item is moved to the next line. Let's make then flow fill the item, the parent, the container, the cell, and then let's define some spacing between items. Let's make it 12. Now we want to place 5 exact pictures inside, but let's do that with repeater. We give it model equal to 5, so it's repeated 5 times. And now we define our delegate, which will be multiplied, duplicated. It's gonna be rectangle of this size, color green. Yeah, and now finally we add the last item, the last cell. It's gonna hold another grid layout with 3 pictures. But for that cell, let's copy it again. And now we make grid layout. It's gonna fill the cell. And now we can define how many rows, columns, and what the spacing it should have. So just like previously, rows and columns. Row spacing 20, column spacing the same. Now we define our first picture. It's gonna be a child of layout item, so we can control the size of it using fill width and fill height, just like here, to fill the cell. And let's give it a color. Let's make it black. Now the second picture, it's gonna be the same, but with red color. And yeah, now finally the third picture will be below in the next row, but let's make it filling this entire row. But first, maybe let's give it a magenta color and let's make it spanning those 2 columns using layout.column span. We give it value of 2 because we want it to span over 2 columns. Yeah, and now I think that we can finally test it. As you can see, top main grid layout filled the entire window. Now we can play with the window a bit. Let's change its size. And you can see that it adapts and the 4 main cells also change size accordingly. The first picture is in the constant position, 50 pixels to the right and 50 to the bottom. We did that using X and Y properties. And the next picture is attached to the anchors. It does not matter what do we do with the window. it sticks on the same position. And as you probably noticed, the flow item wraps the children, moving them to the next lines. And finally, in the last corner, pictures are aligned correctly thanks to the usage of another grid layout. The last picture here spans over 2 columns, just like we wanted. So I think that everything works as expected. Yeah, and that would be it for this episode. You are now ready to position your items in QML. I know that it's a complex topic and it also requires a lot of practice, but believe me, positioning items in QML is easier than in CSS. Remember to follow us on LinkedIn, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to check links in the description. And I hope that we see each other in the next one.